room, 32% of your room with a bed. That's a huge commitment. Just think about all the activities that you could do in there.
It's a big commitment. It is a big commitment. But I think like some people, right? Like if you got back issues, if you got like I think some people need mattresses because they wouldn't be able to sleep on the floor. Like let me propose like
They wouldn't be able to. Just lay down. Ever heard of that?
let's say you lay down and then you're like, "Oh," and then you're like you can't go to bed cuz you're just stuck on the floor there.
All right, how is this? How we doing?
I think this is pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay.
All
Here we
right.
go, episode 2.
Episode 2.
I'm kind of starting a tradition here where I tie my shoes at the beginning of each episode.
I like that. Kind of creates a repetition, if you will, you know?
Yeah.
Feels more comforting than I know that the podcast has begun once you start tying your shoe.
Yeah, there we go. And you know there's a proper way to tie your shoes, right? Did you know that?
I didn't know that actually. No. What's the proper way?
Well, you got to make sure that the loops that they lie flat this way and they're not like vertical.
Oh, okay. I was never like super precise with it. Like how I tie my shoes, I kind of I loosen it just like as best as I can, and then I kind of just.
Can you can you show these guys what your shoe looks like?
Oh yeah, this is my shoe. I think they're nice. I like them. They're comfy. They got they got a little like Here, actually, you know what? I'll sacrifice. I'll tie my shoe too, but
Okay, great.
I'll show you what they got in there. They got this they got this little gel thing.
Okay.
And I wasn't.
How is that guy in there? The little blue gel. How is it?
See, it weirded me out at first. I didn't like it.
Okay.
But I grew to like it over time. Like I really didn't want to take these back was my thing. So I was like, I'm gonna learn to like these shoes. And after I wore them,
wait. So you don't like returning stuff?
no, I don't.
Why is that?
'Cause like I mean, you can send it in by mail, right? But most of the time, you're like, I'm just gonna take it in, and turn it back. But then you have to drive there, and then you're like, now I don't have a pair of shoes again, and I have to find a new pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And if I hated them, I'd take them back. But like, it just kind of bugged me, and then I learned to like accept it, and it kind of like, I think it's really comfy now. Like, I think it's good for your sole, the sole of your foot.
Okay, so a little bit of goo in there by the heel.
Yeah.
Okay, so while you're untying those, I'll show them. So, make sure you could see this here. When I'm doing my laces, I do the bunny ears. You could do it either way, but when you're doing the loop, you do the first tie, obviously. And I'm not teaching you how to tie your shoes. If you already know, then I'm teaching you how to make them better. You go one way, and then you make sure you do the loop the opposite way when you do the second half, and that way it's flat. If you're on here and you go the same way, vertical. This is weak. Never do this. So when you're like this, we go the opposite way, and we pull right through. And that way, it's just flat, straight across, and you got some good style there. Actually, you could do whatever you want, but that's what I do.
How am I doing here? Is this acceptable?
Yeah, those went flat across. Now when you do the double knot, that'll throw it off. And if you're a double knot kind of guy, I mean, you just got to roll with it.
Fair enough. I like my double knot. I mean,
yeah.
My
That's
shoes,
not coming undone.
Yeah, my shoes always come undone. Like I'll be walking, especially these. I don't know why, but like if I do one knot, that's it for me. I'm tripping.
If you had to rate those shoes out of a 1 to 5, what would it be?
Let's see. Probably a 4. That's a pretty good rating, like.
Well, what are the pros? Because we've talked about the cons. The gel is kind of weird to adjust to, and the laces, they look kind of thick.
They are pretty thick, and they're not like they don't have a lot of what do you call it, like resistance to them, like when you tie them together, like they don't have a lot of there's no resistance in there to keep them
between the fibers. It's pretty slippery.
Yeah,
Nice.
So that's a downside. But they're really comfortable. Like I think the gel is almost a plus. Because
Okay.
like I feel like now that I've worn them in, it's like my foot just kind of sinks into it. Like it's like a
Okay.
memory foam type thing down
Nice.
there.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like those. You seen those beds, those purple beds out there that are made out of rubber?
Yeah, yeah, the memory foam beds, right? Like those.
Well, it's like a grid of rubber. It's
Oh,
purple beds. You never seen that?
I don't think so. No.
They did like a marketing campaign where they had like a sheet of glass and they had eggs attached to it, and they would drop the sheet of glass onto the bed, and the eggs wouldn't break.
Oh, damn.
I mean, cool marketing campaign, but I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Can I be honest?
Yeah. Be honest. Be honest.
Okay. They're what they're doing is they're making beds, which are usually made out of soft materials and some springs to make them bouncy. But it's like soft materials. These people are making beds out of rubber, silicone, and then they're telling you that it's gonna make you sleep better.
Yeah. That. I mean,
I mean, just
it's
imagine.
a rubber bed.
Like, why can't they just be honest about it?
Oh, rather than hyping it up to be like, oh, look at all this like brand new technology that we put into this
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
mattress. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But by the way, you're gonna be sleeping on rubber. By the way, so I don't know. Sorry about that. It seems like we're getting off to a good start of just shitting on brands.
That's probably not a great thing, is it? We won't get
Uh,
sponsored at all.
well, I guess the companies that are going against, like Tempur-Pedic, please sponsor us,
Ah, there you go.
or
There you
Sleep
go.
Number beds. It's interesting. The Sleep Number is kind of an interesting type of bed.
Yeah.
It's different. They got hundreds of memory foam beds. They got memory foam toppers. They got, you know what I do personally.
What do you do?
I sleep on the floor.
That's right. You did tell me that. You
Yeah.
started sleeping on the floor.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons for this. Number one, um, I'm kind of ahead of the curve in some areas.
Ahead
And
of the curve. Wait, explain into that. What does that mean? Like ahead of the.
okay, well, number one, when I was sleeping in there, I I started to like, it was a softer bed.
Yeah.
And I started to like sink in there. So literally my spine started to curve and I would get hunched over.
Mm.
So I'm ahead of the curve. I want to get outside of that, I'm getting
Mm.
ahead of it. I want a
Yeah.
straight spine. And then also beds are just a social construct.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about that too. How like it's kind of we've had them forever, right? Like a long time. Like I think of a time where there wasn't a bed in like recent human history.
Mhm.
Like all the way back into the Middle Ages. It's like what did they sleep on? It's like a bed.
Yeah, they're sleeping on beds.
Yeah.
And there's some of those Asian cultures, they're sleeping on wood.
Still a bed technically though, right?
uh,
Like it's technically like
I
it's something.
I sleep in the same spot every night,
Yeah.
and it's just on a towel. 'Cause there's carpet in my room, so I'll put a towel down. I'll put my pillow down, and then I'm just sleeping on there. I got a duvet and everything. So
Got a blanket as well.
Yeah,
Kinda
yeah,
like
yeah,
have
yeah.
a space. Yeah.
so I mean, but these I think some of them are Korean, if I'm not mistaken. They're sleeping. It's not like like they're not sleeping on like firewood. Like a bunch of pieces of wood. It's kind of like a giant cutting board,
Yeah.
and that's what they
yeah.
sleep on.
By definition, that could be a bed, right? Like even like your towel, for instance. Like isn't like a bed almost like whatever we think of as a bed in our mind?
Yeah, I definitely could go there with it, but I'm gonna tell you, aside from people that are living on the streets, those people,
Yeah.
there are people like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. I probably
Uh,
just outside there's gotta you eventually run into
yeah, we probably saw
one of
some
them,
on
yeah.
on the way in here, but I'm saying like, aside from people like that, how many people in the United States choose to not sleep in a bed?
You know, you might be the only one. We don't know.
Okay, so anybody out there that sleeps on the floor, please hit me up. Tell me your reasons. And let's be friends. You know, part of the reason I do this is because, you know, it takes me into a different zone where people realize, like, oh, you know, he's taking this seriously. He's not always doing what everybody else is doing.
And everybody else who sleeps in a bed, hit me up. Everyone, even if it's millions of people, I'll accept you all into the bed gang group.
Okay. And we just want to, you know, the topic of our conversation last time was a little bit sexual. And I really want to hold this thought because I got some good ideas here.
Okay.
But we're going to have to be back with a word from our sponsor. So we'll be right back.
And we're back.
Okay, so speaking directly to you guys at home, if you listen to the first episode, a lot of it was about sex. Okay? It's not like, you know, raunchy, and we're not really getting into intricate details of sex, but, you know, that was a main topic. And I don't want you thinking that that's all that we have to offer. Okay?
Sex robots?
You know, just sex in general. We're talking about Sir Mix-a-Lot having sex with younger, you know, he likes babies sexually. And I just want to say, when Jesse's saying, I'll welcome millions of people into my bed, it's not a sexual invitation.
Oh, no.
Okay?
I didn't mean it that way.
And neither is it from me.
God.
I actually have concerns personally about, you know, meeting a romantic partner and having this conversation. You know, I sleep on the floor. It's a major concern for me.
I didn't think about that.
Because it's like, okay, imagine I don't have a bed where I live. And, you know, at the different stages of relationships, you know, people are going to be sleeping over at other people's houses.
Yeah.
Doing sexual activities.
In a bed.
We're back on the sexual activities. But this is what I'm thinking. Where do the sexual acts happen? The floor is cool, but it's just not traditional. And so, like, some of my concerns are, I'm doing non-traditional acts, but the pool of women that I would, you know, that I might be interested in may be doing traditional things.
Yeah.
Right. So the sexual acts, and then, like, you know, even if it's just a regular night, and, you know, we're just a asexual sleepover situation, are they gonna have to conform to my non-conformity and sleep on the floor, or do I have to get a separate mattress for them to sleep on when they're at my, you know, in my space?
That's a good question. See, like, another question too, like, let's say like you start living with somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this girl, like, it becomes serious, and then let's say she's like, I'm not about this floor life, right? Like, this, like, I'm about the bed life.
Yeah.
And so you gotta, like, and I mean, you could make it work out, I think. Like, imagine all you have to do is have a mattress on the floor. I think that's acceptable to most people. You're just not up off the ground. It's the same thing as sleeping on a mattress, right?
Oh, you're saying that I need to sleep on the floor now?
No,
I mean,
no.
on a mattress?
No, I'm
Okay.
saying that, like, what you do is you have a mattress next to your, like, towel on the ground, and then you can kind of, like, you'll be next to each other. There'll just be, like, a small little mattress elevation for whoever, you know, isn't liking the floor life, if that's the case, you know?
Yeah, that's thanks for thinking of a compromise there. But, you know, I don't know if that'll work out. You know, like, what about, you know, like, spooning and, like, you know, just like, that's still, there's a very large degree of separation there still. So I might just have to be a real good salesman. Let me just talk about the benefits of sleeping on the floor.
Okay.
When you're not sleeping, you can use that space for something else.
The mattress.
It's kind of like, you know, Murphy beds. They're beds, and then they fold up into the wall to give you extra space in your room.
Yeah.
So it's like that, except you don't even have to take up space to put the mattress anywhere because you don't have one. So what I do, I have a special place on a shelf for my blanket, my towel, and my pillows. I use 2 pillows. Once that's tucked away, I have so much more room for activities.
Mm.
Just non-sexual activities I'm talking about. Dancing,
Okay. Dancing,
yoga,
yoga.
other activities.
Okay, I like where you're going with this, but then I think I have to defend the mattress users because I mean,
Okay.
as we all know, I am a mattress user. I like the bed for now, you know. I get your point. I think like posture, like sure, like if you have like a bad bed, you know, and you start sinking in, like it's gonna like friggin' mess up your back. It could be messing up my back. I don't know, but there's some people I think out there who like, especially as you get like older, maybe like I think like sleeping on the floor is going to become a lot harder, like then you need a little bit of like comfort, you got to like invest maybe in a good mattress that has like back support, like cushion and like support. I don't know what that would look like.
I don't know about
but
bed technology, and can I ask you to get the mic closer to your face?
yeah. There we go.
I don't know about the technology. I think one benefit of beds is when you're older, you're in the bed, and going from the bed to standing up is a lot easier. Because you roll over and you're already waist height, and you can just get your legs down there.
And like,
just to stand up. But I mean, if that's what you need, just build, like an elevated surface in your room, for you to sleep on. But don't put a mattress on there.
but the thing about the mattress too is that there's some old people, they like they'll come to sleep at somebody's house, right?
Yeah.
And someone has a really just rigid like like mattress or like fold out bed, right?
Sure.
And then they sleep on it, and the next day they're like, oh, my back, it feels like terrible, right? And then when they sleep on a like regular bed, they wake up and they're like, that was nice, like they can tell the difference.
Yeah,
And
well,
like,
okay. I think there's a lot of, older gentlemen and older females of the female variety. I think there's people like that. I don't know how many good nights of sleep they're getting on average. I think what I'm talking about is not like, I'm not trying to convert, anybody over 30. I think, they've been raised with the bed. They're going to be using a bed. But I'm talking about, if you're 9 years old, or you're, even 19 or 26. I'd think about, maybe you don't need to sleep on a bed anymore.
wait, so
Plus, okay, so we got all these people who are living with some roommates, and they have one room, right? It's usually 100 square feet or less.
yeah.
If you're taking up 3 to 4 feet by 8 feet, you're taking up 35% of your room, 32% of your room with a bed. That's a huge commitment. Just think about all the activities that you could do in there.
It's a big commitment. It is a big commitment. But I think like some people, right? Like if you got back issues, if you got like, I think some people need mattresses because they wouldn't be able to sleep on the floor. Like let me propose like
They wouldn't be able to. Just lay down. Ever heard of that?
let's say you lay down and then you're like, oh, and then you're like, you can't go to bed because you're just stuck on the floor there. And then like, and let's say like there was a,
You're saying a 9-year-old is gonna start doing stuff like that?
yeah, here's a scenario. Let's say like
Okay.
little Jimmy, right? Like 9-year-old little Jimmy.
Okay, let's.
And
Can
let's
we use
say
can we use a different name?
Okay. How about Timothy?
Yeah, Timothy.
Yeah, Timothy. Yeah, like
yeah.
Tim's chips. I'm gonna be defending little Timothy here.
Oh, this was him as a child. Okay.
Yeah, Timothy. He comes to you, and he's really excited about his bed, and he's about to go to sleep tonight, right? And you go in there and you just start like taking apart the bed, and he's like, I like this bed. Please stop. But you keep like you're throwing out the mattress.
I'm sawing the bed in half.
Yeah, you're getting it out of there because you're like, activities, Timothy, activities, we're going to be doing them in here. And what if he starts crying? Then he's like, I like my bed. Like,
well,
it's
Tim, if Timothy ever wants to achieve his dreams of creating a, I'll call it an average chip company, he needs to be able to make sacrifices. And one of those may be, we're not going to be sleeping in a bed tonight, Tim, or ever. By the way, that's not my strategy would never be to go into Tim's room and start taking away his belongings. I would have a conversation with him about it. I would talk about the pros and cons, and then I would say, dude, just try it. We'll just try sleeping next to the bed. We don't have to get rid of it right away. I think that a lot of people would be surprised about. You might even like it. People who like firm mattresses. You know what's a lot like a firm mattress? The ground. You know what's a lot. You know what is a lot like sleeping on even just on a carpet, a little bit soft. But then on top of all of that, what activities do you like?
See,
you even you like scrapbooking? You could do that right where your bed is.
I mean,
especially if you have a queen. Imagine a queen bed. People who have twin beds or double beds. Queen and king size beds, that's all you can do. All you can do is sleep in there and then walk around the bed. That's all you're doing there. Go.
Counter argument, just one thing. If I wanted to, I could scrapbook on the bed. I've seen it in the movies. I think it's very possible that I could do that.
Okay, that could be a little bit dangerous. And we'll be right back with a word from Hidden Tricycle, the innovators in music technology. Here is a video.
Just a grinning, happy ever after. But the night comes in and the stars come out and the rain falls down again. You're falling off the freezer, hit you in the belly. Falling off the freezer, hit you in the belly. Don't you say you know? Eat your fucking chicken, it's on the radar. I wanna tell you it's on the that's your chicken. I just wanna check it. I don't wanna set it. Where's my phantom? Where's my phantom? Here we go. Where's my phantom?
And we're back.
Okay, so as far as scrapbooking goes on the bed, if you talk to any medical professional, especially ones that are a little bit mindful of sleep patterns, you would find that all of them will tell you need to make sure that what you're doing in your bed is sleeping, and if you're doing anything but sleeping, you're gonna mess up the rhythms. Cause your mind takes different places, the kitchen. Oh, this is where the food is, and your mind knows. Okay? Start salivating a little bit. Get ready to do some chopping on the cutting board. Flipping some stuff around on that skillet. In the bed, if you're, reading cartoons, if you're watching some books, if you're doing anything that's not sleeping in the bed, your mind gets confused on what to do there. You wake up in the morning and you're using your device. Your mind's like, okay, this spot is meant for sleeping and for other activities, and your brain gets confused.
What happens if I'm doing my little dance, right, in my room, right? I'm doing my little dance, and I can do this little dance, right, because I got rid of my bed.
Yeah.
And I've got the towel there, but
sure.
let's say I'm
when I do
dancing
it,
where the
when I do
towel
it,
is.
it's not a little dance. Okay.
It's not a little dance.
Okay.
You do the big dance.
But it's just, I don't like to put labels on it.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead though.
Okay. So I'm doing my my average. I'm doing my unique dance. All right.
There
I'm doing
we
my
go.
unique
There we go.
dance. I'm doing it, and I'm doing it over where I usually sleep, right? Which is this like little corner. It's mine.
Yeah.
And then when I go to bed, I mean, it's the same thing. Then it's like I'm like shit. I got to do my my little dance.
Yeah.
my unique dance.
You think the
excuse
brain
me,
gets a
my
little bit
unique.
confused?
I mean, it could. I think in the same like scenario, like bed or no bed, I think like it could still mess up the rhythm. Possibly.
Yeah. Okay. So I get that point. I thought about that. Part of the construction and deconstruction of the bed, what ends up happening is there's a ceremony in the creation of the bed, in that rhythm, your brain knows once I set up the bed, it's time to sleep on the bed when I set up the towel and blankets, and it's I do it the same way every time. Boom, 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 and it's time to sleep. And it's a ceremony.
Okay. What about when I like when I make my bed? I feel like that's kind of like also a ceremony of sorts.
Yeah, it's closing off sleep. Absolutely.
Yeah, like letting me know that like it's time to and sometimes I don't do it. Sometimes I'm a little bit lazy and I'm just gonna leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's easy because then like when I get tired, I just kind of like I just fall into my bed.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think there's benefits to both. I think like the bed can almost be described as the lazy man's sleeping arrangement in a way, or those who have bad or particular backs, where it's like they got to have some kind of like cushion there to help them out.
Yeah, and I could imagine, a woman with kind of you mentioned backs, like kind of a larger, gluteal region. I can imagine, maybe you need some compression down there, to have a straight spine. There's specific reasons why you would need a bed. All I would want to know is I would want to be aware, when I'm being brought up in this world, it's an option. The, choosing a bed is an option.
If you think about it, everything's kind of an option, right? Like
Yeah.
like for instance, do we really need this couch? We could be sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
And it probably would
I prefer to sit on the couch.
Same here.
But
same here.
but I get what you're saying, and this is what I'll say. There's got to be some guidelines, or we're just going to be running around and shit. But, this guideline, we might we got to teach children how to speak our language, and it'd be beneficial to teach them other languages as well. To speak with, the other people in the world. But also, if we're in the school and we're saying, okay, you guys, do your parents sleep on beds? And most of the kids say, oh yeah, my parents do. And then, some of the kids are like, well, my parents don't sleep on beds. And maybe they'll get ridiculed at first, but I think we need to start, need to be part of our dialogue.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm all for people like sleeping on the floor, like sitting on the floor. Like, I would hope that there'd be nobody out there who would like, if they came into somebody's house and they saw that they didn't have a bed, maybe they didn't have a couch either. Maybe they just thought that like any sort of like weird thing propping them up was kind of weird, right? Because I mean, it kind of is. Like we didn't always have that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're trying to go back to like normal, like or how it used to be. I don't see why anyone should, ridicule that person. Like, I feel like that would be pretty insecure of someone to be like, oh wow, look at you having.
I know, but that happens. That happens when there's people that are different.
Yeah, it does. But how would somebody like how would that even look? Like somebody like being like, this guy doesn't have a couch. Like how would that go about? Like how would somebody?
It's kind of like, let's say I found out that you didn't use a couch.
Yeah.
Like even if you're at somebody else's house, you won't use a couch, but you personally don't have a couch in your place. If I'm, considering whether or not I'd like to hang out with you and become friends with you, I'd be like, well, if I ever go over to his house and there's not going to be a couch there, is that going to be, beneficial for my lifestyle? And I think it takes a specific type of person to recognize that, maybe this relationship will benefit you in so many other ways. And maybe you just won't go over to their house because that's not going to be a beneficial part of the relationship. I just think sometimes people will count somebody out just because of something obscure like that. And they'll say, well, I can't be friends with him because if I went to his house, it wouldn't work out. But you don't have to go over there. You can just hang out in, neutral locations like a park. They got seating there. They also got, maybe this person would use a swing because it's an activity, or they'll go on a roller coaster. They won't use it for leisure. And yeah, we just got to give people more chances, I think.
That guy, like, judging somebody for not having a couch and not being friends with him because he doesn't have a couch, he sounds like an asshole to me. Like,
well,
how would somebody rationalize that in their head and be like, okay, I like this person's personality, they're a cool person, but they don't have a couch, so, like, I'm trying to, like, imagine what's going through that guy's, like, head. Maybe he, like, comes up with some, like, obscure reason to rationalize it and be like, I saw him, like, drink water out of that way, and that, like, that's unacceptable or I don't know, like, what.
Yeah. I got what you're saying. I think oftentimes people just can't. They have a certain model of how the world works, and if somebody's outside of that it is a challenge for you to expand that, or to accept that people are doing things outside of the way you think the world works. And it's like it's just easier to do that. I wouldn't consider them an asshole just in the same way that you're saying this person doesn't like people with. You're saying this person doesn't like people who don't have couches. How he's an asshole, but he's just like the person who doesn't like couches in a way, right? And we don't really know what the basis of that is.
But it's like kind of
because
like,
he's different, or maybe that's the norm. I think that's the norm personally.
the norm is to.
It's hard to accept things outside of what is common, because what is common you can account for easily. Stereotypes, it's common that we speak English here. It's hard for people to accommodate other people. Are like, why don't they just do what we're doing here? Group mentality. In a group, there has to be commonality within it, or it's gonna be scattered. So in unity, there's commonality, but then we also have to learn how to evolve and to accept new ideas.
Yeah. It's weird because it seems like, I don't know where that comes from. It's probably like some kind of like instinct to reject things that are different due to the unknown, right? Probably
Mhm.
like through like evolution and things like that, and sticking with the group
Sure.
and developing like traits that everybody has to try and like fit in and to identify who's in what group. Like, I'm sure that's like, because it is a natural thing, but sometimes like group mentality, it's like it can be so dangerous. Like, you talk to an individual person, right? And it seems like such like a wonderful thing, but then sometimes people gather in groups and it's like insanity just starts happening. Like,
Yeah, dude.
and they gather and it just keeps gathering because like somehow everyone just starts thinking, this is how I got to think. Anyone else who's not in this group, it's like,
Yeah, well, the reason they have to do that is they have to protect themselves, because they're benefiting in some way by being part of that group, and they're giving up some of their individuation to be protected by the ideals of that group, however it was set up.
yeah.
So like I completely get it. I had this one time where I was hanging out with my friend. I'm not gonna name any names, but we went to a mod pizza, and we were talking about stuff like this, like details about how humans function, and I was talking about kind of what my goals were, and since it was one-on-one, um, we were able to kind of skew outside of usually, the standard talk as if you were at a party or whatever, where, it's kind of like, you're just bouncing around. Kind of like the stuff on episode 1, we're talking about Sir Mix-a-Lot. It's funny because it's creative and clever, but it's not necessarily, there's not necessarily substance behind it. So anyway, I, when me and my friend left the Mod Pizza to go hang out with a group of people, I I I kind of saw this transition from this person from hanging out and talking about how things work to being fully immersed in the group mentality, and then I just wasn't able to talk to them because I was I was specifically coming from talking about how things worked to going in there with that person, and so I found it hard to kind of adapt to this new way that this person was acting in a different environment.
Yeah.
And with that, I would love to say thank you so much for supporting us, and we'll be right back.
And we're back.
And we're so back. And yeah, so group mentality is kind of a challenge. It's kind of interesting to think about how it develops and who kind of sets a tone for a group. Is there some, person or group of people, a small finite amount that is influence how it all works, or is it kind of a group, like a collective decision by all the people participating? I'm not really sure about how it works beneath the surface. I just do know that it's effective.
Yeah.
People are able to do great things together when they buy into that group mentality. Professional athletes, like the military, they're doing crazy stuff, and it's by this cohesive buy-in to, we do stuff this way here. If you don't do stuff like this, I'm sorry. But somehow that creates elite level people who compete at a high level. Now there's individuals who compete at a high level in a different way. Those group mentality things I'm talking about are kind of more of a physical things that they're doing. They're playing football. They're, going through boot camp and being super strong and becoming Navy SEALs and stuff. There's intellectuals who become elite who don't have to be part of a group.
Yeah, I think that, like, those are, like, scenarios, too, where, like, good things are happening from the group mentality sometimes, right? Or sometimes maybe somebody could get excluded because they do something a different way, right? And they can't make it to the top in the societal constraints that are built around that group because they're the majority and they control this side or this aspect of society, right? Whether it's like in entertainment, politics, the workforce, right? Like if somebody does something different, even if it is like more effective, someone could say, well, that's not how it's done around here and we don't accept that. And then the group mentality, although already being effective, can turn into a negative thing because it starts isolating people who are different and saying, if you don't conform to one of these groups, you just can't function in this society because you'll be alone. And it kind of like becomes this not necessarily an evil thing. Like it's built that way so that society functions somewhat smoothly, right? But it's also kind of a system that just absorbs people or spits them out in a way, which is, it's kind of a tragic thing that's evolved as time has gone on.
Yeah, I would say that I totally get what you're saying. And I've actually, I've been there and thought like that. One thing that I would kind of say that I learned to make me kind of look at things maybe in a more optimistic way is there are groups large and small, but if you say the entertainment industry is like this, and if you don't act like this, then you're going to be spit out. It is the power of the power that people hold in the entertainment industry is dispersed among bunch of different areas in genres of what the media is, movies, TV shows. There's late night shows, then there's music, and there's Broadway, and there's all these different things. Even if you just look at it in that perspective, there's different things that those groups accept. And then within that, then there's different companies within each medium. So I think it is a little bit more broken up than just saying, if you're not like this in this industry, you're going to be spit out. But I would say as a whole, there's some kind of rigid guidelines that usually is going to be successful. So I've heard it go both ways. I was listening to a podcast with Mark Normand. He's a comedian. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. Hilarious. But he was talking about how he felt kind of the pressures of that, and he knew that if he wanted to do the comedy that he wanted to do, he would have to do a little bit more of generic comedy to get some people at the ground level and people who are working in companies that do promotion, and they would put him on spots with more of a generic comedy, but with the end goal of kind of getting his thing in. So if you look at things objectively, like straightforward, like if the only way I'm going to be successful here is if I recognize the guidelines, see them for truly what they are, and then based on that, just make a straightforward decision and say, well, if I want to do what I want to do, it may require me, quote unquote, conforming in some way. But if you retain your true identity in conforming, then it doesn't become your identity. The conforming doesn't become your identity. It becomes something that you do as a tool to get what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as like the way that society works right now, I think that's probably honestly the best way to go about it, because there does come a point where like it would be nice if like we could like just basically be like, oh, like everyone can like just, be their own unique person, right? And like we can just focus on like people like when it matters, but I don't think society is really constructed to operate like that, at least not currently, right? So in the current climate, right? Because you can't just go and say I'm going to do this, and if everyone else says no, then it's just you basically screaming out into a bunch of people who have their backs turned the other way, right? So you almost do have to, again, like conform, keep your own identity, and then once you make it to a place where you really can like foster something yourself, right? And with other people, then that's what you have to wait for. I mean, again, I don't think it's like there's still like a hint of like I feel like tragedy that has to happen, but it's also necessary because I mean, I don't have any answers as to how like society could like do a flip and change so that everybody got like the chance to express their true selves, out in society. Like I don't know how that change could spark, because
Do you think there are people who are living as their true selves in society currently?
I think there's people who definitely they do what they want, and either it works out well for them through like a series of like chances, or sometimes it doesn't. And some people, I think you see people that are bothered by that, the fact that people won't accept them and that they can't, it's harder for them to traverse the ground that everybody else does because there is more resistance to them going against the fold, right? And you can see that frustration from those people, and then other people somehow they make it after, just traveling through the rough terrain, being a trailblazer.
Yeah, I think that definitely happens. And then I think also sometimes what people want, their truest selves, is easy to express based on the structure of how things are set up right now. And like, for someone to be a true creative and be able to express themselves, we have to take in what the landscape of what is currently going on and play with those textures, right? So there is something to be said about wanting to create something new, but then also at the same time, if it's completely new, then nobody is going to understand it. So that's the game that I play, of kind of bouncing back and forth of like, what are people going to like? Because I want to, it's sort of a transaction about my creativity. It's about expression, but it's also about connection with other people and kind of playing with ideas that people have. So if I don't fully understand where people are at and what kind of the guidelines of what people of the quote unquote society has set up, then I'm not able to generate my art or my ideas or my expression to affect those people who are living by these rules.
Yeah, I think that's something that's common among like people like who are in a creative field, right? Like music, art, um entertainment, comedy, anything like that. I think everyone experiences that like kind of a conflict, right? Like where you're looking at like what's out there, right? And you're looking at what's maybe popular and you're looking at what you want to do, what you like to do. Maybe you find something that you think is really cool, but maybe you're like, it's not really something that's like that's big out there right now. Or maybe there's only like, maybe you think to yourself, you're like, there's probably only like, 15 people, which of course is like, being a little bit drastic, but only 15 people that would like this one thing that I would like to do or that I'm finding while I'm exploring the field that I'm interested in, the creative field,
Sure.
right? I think that's something super common in music. I definitely noticed that as well.
And we will be right back with a word from our sponsors. Tim's Shoes. Thank you so much for your products.
Oh, wow.
You are what inspired me. And, this is my second pair of Tim's.
I didn't like mine. I'm sorry, but I didn't put them on. I just told them no. I sent a letter back saying mine were a bit too small. They didn't have soles on them was the problem.
So the Tim's bags are shiny, and the kettle bags are a little bit of a matte color, and they're more appealing bags.
I will say this: Kettle does have more flavors. They do have a lot more flavors.
Barbecue.
Yeah.
And some of them have wavy chips, right?
Yeah, they do.
They have wavy ones.
They do have wavy ones.
Oh, and the cracked pepper ones.
Ooh, those are good. Yeah. And they got that salt and vinegar down. That's like there's something about the salt and vinegar specifically by Kettle.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Those
very
will
good.
destroy your teeth, but they taste really good.
Yeah, they do. They're addictive too. Like you eat one and then you just before you know it, the bowl's gone.
And we'd like to thank our sponsor, Kettle Chips. Thank you so much for all that you do. Yeah, it's been amazing. And one more shot to throw at Lay's. Just the quantity. They're already thin chips.
Yeah.
But then you're going to throw in all that air.
Yeah, and
I mean, dude.
And we're back.
Okay.
Taking on some serious subjects today.
Yeah, and one thing that I would say is if somebody were to see the landscape and say, here's what I want to do, and you look and you see this is not going to be accepted by people. You got to first figure out, why am I wanting to do this when everybody else is wanting to do something else? And then also, like, you can do whatever you want to do, but are you going to be able to support yourself based on this thing that you want to do that other people don't like or won't accept at this current moment? So, like, yeah, in the discovery process, you're going to find stuff that will appeal to a small audience. But what are you really trying to uncover when you're looking for new things to be creative about? Or creative with, musically and otherwise. If you're looking for something that people that you want to be super creative and super unique and different than everything else, if you're looking for that, you'll find that. And then but you just have to think about that objectively and think, if I do this, is it going to help me be successful in the long run? And I'm not talking about monetarily successful, but being able to continue to do creative things in your life. Like, I think something that happens super often is, oh, somebody who likes to do something super creative, but they're doing it in a way that won't allow them to be successful in the current way that the structure's set up, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm looking for creative things that are also will provide stability, and I think personally that we're able to decide what we want and what we can do creatively. So if we're looking for specific things that'll spark our creative interest, I just decide to choose things that are going to provide stability, and that can be my main thing that I do.
Yeah. I like that I like that like philosophy, because I feel like we're told very often, from a younger age especially, right, that like there's the things that you like to do, like the hobbies, things that you wish that you could do for a living, right? And then there's the realistic jobs and what the job market wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're constantly told kind of like, go find a way to be financially stable doing something else, right? And then do your hobby on the side and just fulfill yourself to the amount that you need to make it through, is what it always feels like when I hear people say that, right? It's like, keep doing this to keep yourself going. Just barely build up your mental health enough. Go back to work. Go home. You can do the hobby again and like fulfill the cycle, rather than actually making money doing what you love to do and knowing that you're living off of the stuff that you really love, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a different feeling. So I definitely think that's a healthier philosophy.
Yeah.
Than
Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's like, to me, it's really nuanced, because when you're talking about the building up of the mental health and then dropping down and going back to work and stuff, I think what I thought kind of previously was that nobody was satisfied with that. But I think a lot of people who are successful now, or going to school to be successful on how it works right now, in a quote unquote non-creative way, working in finance or commercial real estate or something. I think there's a lot of people that do get fulfillment out of that. I think there's also a lot of people who have creative passion, but will choose things like that in kind of a non-creative realm, doing air quotes, and they won't even be that successful in that area because it's not their passion, right? It's not something that fires them up. So it's kind of like a safe call. But I don't even know if there's that much quote unquote training from people saying you need to do your hobbies, music or whatever, creatively on the side. I think that's just something that people build up in their heads because they want to. Because if they do something different than that, then that's non-traditional, and that's scary, and that's challenging. But I personally, like, I've thought like that, but I personally, no one has told me you need to do your hobbies on the side. No one's told me anything.
You haven't had like a counselor or something like that? Because I mean, I guess it's like different from experience to experience. I've run into, at least in my schooling, I've run into people, a lot of like just like counselors or people who like advise you. They're not going to direct you in a path that's more uncertain, right? And some people like what you said before, like I didn't mean that like everybody is miserable going to their job and doing their hobby, right? It depends on what kind of person you are. If you're someone who's interested in a certain field and you go into that field, and it just so happens that like that's one of the jobs that people that society views as safe, or one that just happens to have more job openings, higher pay, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
That's great for that person, right? But then I think there's of course other people who maybe that stuff doesn't interest them, and there's a few things that they're interested in, and it just so happens that those interests are lower on the category list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when they go to be advised, and at least this is what I experienced, you'd be pushed to like, okay, but how can we like, you're interested in this, how can we like, this is something that's kind of like similar but it's over here, and it gets like, oh, but and this is like, you'll make like this much and it's not a lot, but you know there's some job openings coming up, and they try to like look at it that way from what I've seen. And I think that can lead to somebody living a life that they didn't necessarily want to live or something. And that's of course their choice when they made that decision, right? But it's, people sometimes I think are guided into a direction that they might not have wanted to begin with. And maybe they're happy with it later on. Maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
happy for the security. But then there's always, I mean, there's always the people who are like, who think back and then they're like, what if I did this? And
Yeah,
they
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like they feel like, I guess maybe like it took them down a path that they would have been able to
Yeah,
change.
that's why I just don't listen to other people. Like I'm not listening and understanding what you're saying, but unless this person, whatever your guidance counselor is, or even family members, anybody, unless they're doing what you want to be doing, then how can they be educated enough to help you make decisions? It's their job. They're there for people who don't want to make decisions for themselves. But I don't know, it doesn't even make logical sense to think and believe what they're saying. It doesn't make sense to me. So I mean that's challenging. I mean you got to be really sure about what your belief system is and what you're trying to do, and those people are there to help people who are not strong in their beliefs and stuff. So um I would just try to figure out what you're trying to do, and then why does it matter if somebody else cares about what you're doing? And that would be the end of story. And yeah, I kind of just when I was going through my high school and college experiences, I was doing the bare minimum to get by in that kind of a traditional route. I was doing the bare minimum, and it wasn't fulfilling to me. And also, socially, things were starting to break down because the bare minimum wasn't really working out. Um, so yeah, it really is a challenge, and I'm not saying it wasn't challenge me to kind of traverse that and try to figure out like how am I going to be successful in other people's terms, but I haven't found that to be successful in my own life. So I just gotta say screw it to what other people are thinking, and that's like it's not like to negate them. It's just like literally their thoughts aren't relevant to what you're doing.
Yeah, no, the only person that matters in that case is you. And I think it would be nice if a lot more young people could be brought up with with that kind of like mentality, or just like a like, just to let them know that like there's going to be people that like are supposed to advise you throughout your life, and some of that advice may really help you, some of it might not. What really matters is what you feel like you want to do at the end of the day, and that's what you should do, because you want to make sure that like when all is said and done, right, you did, in your mind, you think you did everything that you possibly could to reach that place that you want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter how far you come, no matter how far you go, you can sit back and you can say, but I did all that. I took the steps. I pushed as hard as I could. This is how far I made it, right? And you get that kind of that satisfaction of knowing that you went in that direction, right?
Yeah, for sure, dude. I'd say that it could, number one, when you said when it's all said and done, you mean when we're dead, right? Like that,
Like
it,
towards the end, I mean, I don't know, like you're like maybe 85 thinking back to, your
yeah.
life.
But anyway, like yeah, that is something that's going to occur, and that's not really in the forefront of our minds very often. And I totally understand why. I mean, that's a scary thought, and it's also not very relevant to our day to day. Uh, if you look at it in a certain way. But dude, just fuck it. I mean, like, if we're gonna die, then we got to do something. And we will be right back with a word from
Sandwiches.
Grilled cheese, peanut butter and jelly, ham sandwich, BLT, tuna melt.
And we are back.
BACK. Here we are. Welcome to this is not your cousin's podcast. I mean, not your cousin's. Welcome. Can you do it again?
Well,
Do the
okay,
snap,
yeah,
do the
we'll
snap
we'll
again.
start over again. All right. Sandwiches.
Welcome to Not Your Cousin's podcast. We are not your cousin. We were just in the middle of talking about, crazy stuff about, raising children out here in the United States, and kind of what it's like to be a creative person in a kind of more of a traditional landscape over here in the Northwest, and from a family of successful people, and even our great grandfather and all of his lineage of before that, great all those people, a bunch of lawyers. Our great grandfather, Grandpa Bob, Robert, he decided not to be a lawyer, and he decided that he was going to be a forester, and so he was kind of kicked out of the family in a sort of way, and that kind of was a challenging thing for our family to go through. But maybe that's just in our bones, dude. Maybe that's just in our veins to kind of want to do something a little bit different. Yeah, that's cool. And then a last thing that I would say is, at this point, I can speak for myself, and something that you said was, well, it would be great if people are trained when they are brought up to listen to what they want, and kind of follow, like, their instincts or their intuition, or follow kind of, like, to each individual person, they have something that kind of drives them, and they got to kind of tap into that. I would definitely like that, and I don't know if that can be taught in a traditional way, or like kind of, like, we're going to go to history class, we're going to go to, geometry, and then we're going to be like, follow what your dreams are class. Like, I don't know if it fits into that kind of like the traditional educational system, but it can be found. There's there's some literature, there's some pretty magical people out there, and you can find them if you're looking for them. So I definitely would advise that, if you're looking for something like that.
Yeah. It would be nice, if maybe they just, when you went to go and talk to like a counselor or somebody, right, who's supposed to give you advice about your life, right?
Are you talking about like a school counselor, or like a life counselor, like kind of like a therapist type one person?
Like a school counselor. Like back when I was talking to, like I meant like, when I went to go see like my school counselor about like what you should do with your life, and stuff like that. But like, it would be nice if they just had on like the door, and maybe this would go for like anything, like even like therapists, or like just like on the door, just be like, this, some of this could be bullshit for you.
Ooh.
Like kind of like when you walk in and then you see it and you're like, oh, some of this, like, and then you keep that in mind in the back of your mind, and you're like, okay, I need to make sure that like, that this is resonating with me as I'm hearing it, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's the responsibility of this counselor or this school where you're getting provided education. It's like, that would be great, but I don't know if it's their responsibility to tell you that this isn't for you, because we just, like, it may fall under the parents' responsibility, or kind of a person navigating kind of their internal kind of dialogue, and kind of just like, only what's going on inside of you. Like, I it's strange being me. I don't know what it'd be like to be somebody else. So I don't know if it's their responsibility. It would be nice to kind of for those counselors to be maybe like more cognizant that maybe even being at the school might not be the best thing for this person. Like kind of just being a little bit more open. I could definitely get down with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is something that like why did we do this?
Why did we do what?
Why are we here sitting here with the the cameras out here, the microphones and the headphones and stuff? What are we doing out here?
I think like how did this come about kind of is what you mean? Like
Yeah, we could talk
what led
like
to it?
kind of like origin stories and kind of like, inspiration and kind of why people would want to listen,
Oh man, that's a pretty good question. Why
We could
why
start out with
would
the first
people-
question. How did we get here?
All right. Let's see. I think it mainly came from you getting this space right here. Like you convinced me to go to Seattle Recording Arts to get my Pro Tools certification and audio engineering certification.
Okay,
'Cause at
shout out
first-
to SRA. Here's
Yeah.
their website right here.
absolutely put it up.
Okay. Shout out
So-
to Joe and Karen. Go ahead.
it was like a long like kind of like it was a weird journey because I was like at that point I had graduated from Bellevue College, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had my associates, and I was just gonna go straight into UW, get some like communications degree. I might still get that just in case, but it's like I guess like it I'm definitely very glad, like honestly, that I knew you to like kind of like to help me like because I don't know if I would have made that step if I didn't know somebody who already did it,
Mm-hmm.
Like at that point you were just getting the studio space set up, and I thought to myself, I was like, dang, he's taking like a leap. He's getting the studio, you know what I mean? I don't know, I wouldn't have done that like if it was just me, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make the step and I'm gonna go and get my certification. I thought that when I saw that you made both those steps, I was like, dang, it's like I should just go for it. And so I did.
Yeah, and so how did that lead you to getting to where you are right now?
We started talking. We started coming in here making some music, and then one day we decided podcast.
Wait, but did we decide or like how did it come up, dude? I mean, that's kind of what I'm, because the way that I remember what it was, I was thinking about like if we looked at my notes, from maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I wrote on my thing on my notepad, doing a podcast wouldn't be that hard, and I wrote in Sharpie and I did it on my notebook, and I was thinking about it, like I'll probably, I don't know how this is gonna work out, but like right now, this is the Not Your Cousins podcast. We are not your cousins, and we'll be doing this, and maybe when the other Hidden Tricycle guys come back, maybe we'll do like, maybe it'll be not part of your Not Your Cousins podcast, or maybe it'll be a different thing. But I'm like definitely, like the medium is definitely cool, and now this being our second or third episode, it's really fun to do, and it's creative and it's fun and it's exciting, and the editing's awesome. So I'll want to like figure out how to have other guests. So that was kind of like when I started thinking about that, I was thinking about just me doing a podcast and having guests. But then we come in here in the studio, we're jamming a little bit, we're making some beats and songs and stuff. And you said, why don't we just try doing a podcast? And I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. So then like a few days later, we came in, got the camera set up, and like the microphones failed and stuff, and the first one didn't go well, but there was a promising moment in there. We only had like 12 minutes, and there was like maybe like 90 or like 180 good seconds in there.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good for a second, low quality and stuff. But and then all of a sudden, we do the next one, a lot of jokes, still some malfunctions. Is cool. But yeah, no, now we're in the thick of it, and I think it's pretty cool. As far as making those leaps, like a lot of times when I do stuff, it's like it was the only option. Like people are like, oh, it's so brave of you to, stop going to school or to, start going to audio engineering school when literally every person that is my age, I'm almost 24, but graduated high school in 2015, would have graduated college in 2019. Every person from the person that literally from 6th grade all the way until whatever grade is college, like 16th grade or whatever, every one of those people I'm seeing follow the same route. And so to them, it's super brave. But it was, to me, it's like the only thing I can do. So like, I I can't do anything else, and people, like, from their perspective, they would be really scared to do it because maybe their life isn't fulfilling, or maybe they're not in touch with kind of their inner dialogue, or kind of they're not in touch with how valuable doing what you want to do is. They just see somebody else doing something that's different, and that's kind of scary. But all my decisions have been, I'm just gonna do this. I'm not like it's not like I do a pros and cons list. I'm not like that. I'm just like, man, this is something cool that I'm gonna go for this. So I appreciate that you're saying how valuable it was that I was had an effect on you. I think that's cool to hear, man, and definitely that's kind of the effect that I would like to have on any person that I meet.
Yeah, yeah. It was a big step, and one that I can definitely say I don't know if it was just me if I would have taken that leap, because being the first one, I mean, at least for me, that's scary to me. And I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, we should probably wrap it up. Yep.
And we'll be right back.
Other sandwiches.
And we are back.
Yeah, so here we are. We're back in the studio. Yeah, kind of what I want to do with this is, I want I want to kind of get my ideas out there, dude. I want people to come and listen and be like, yeah, I think some of those ideas are cool. I I I appreciate that point of view, even if you don't believe what I'm saying.
Or even just have a laugh. I mean, I don't know if they're, maybe some episodes will be for them. Maybe the previous episode, maybe they'll think, that was funny. That was really entertaining. Maybe that's what they wanted. And then they'll come here and then they'll be like, I'll wait for the next, I don't know, funny one. Like, it'll be kind of like,
Yeah, we'll see how this develops into, but kind of like, even if I'm being funny, it's kind of like me using my voice. I want to be a presence in other people's lives, and I want to get out there because I think that I'm doing cool stuff, we're doing cool stuff. And I want to share that with other people. And I'd also like to shamelessly plug my business, the Grove Recording. We're out here in Seattle, Washington. We record, mix, and master music. Put the link in the right here. Yeah, so it's about exposure, it's about ideas, it's about comedy, it's about sharing that, that spark, dude. Sharing that spark, and sometimes that's going deep, and sometimes that's making jokes about, some music, some people out there, making some jokes.
Tim, sex robots,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Anything's on the table. I think just good conversation is what I call it. You laugh, you cry, it's what it is.
Dude, yeah, and speaking of crying, I'd like to do more of that. It's not always the easiest thing for me to do. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I gotta feel good all the time. And so, like, if that's how I believe that I gotta be acting, anytime I'm not feeling good, I kind of like zone out, And so it's like, it's like a coping mechanism. It's like, sometimes there's been like traumatic things in my life that have happened, and like I really haven't had the most traumatic life, but everything's relative, and most of the stuff that's traumatic is kind of relationship things. And so the defense mechanism is to anytime I'm feeling kind of like that sadness or whatever, grief or anything like that, it's kind of just like, oh, I just check out, like, oh, I'm not here for this, dude. Like I can't be dealing with this. And that like that's not like the whole emotions happening and I'm crying and stuff and I'm pretending like it's not happening. It's like completely just cutting it off and it's not happening, and that's not healthy. So yeah, and like in like there's like things that make me sad, but I would like to experience like the full range of emotions, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely I feel that too. If I'm feeling like if I'm feeling sad or down, like you start getting that like it's like one of those things that you really like. It makes it so that it like distracts you. Like you get in this loop, right, where you start thinking like these sad thoughts or these like kind of like the thoughts that you don't want to focus on, right? And so what I'll do sometimes as well is to not focus on them at all, right? To get them as far out of my head as I can. I'll go watch something distracting and I won't focus on them. I won't let that emotion kind of churn in my mind for a while, cuz by the time I've thought about it for maybe like 15 minutes, I'm like I just want to get it right out of there, right?
Mhm.
So I don't focus on it anymore and I go and
Yeah.
I do something else. And that's not enough time, right? For like I don't think anybody to go through like a grieving process or to go through like a process where they're really fighting the things that are bothering them, right?
Mhm.
And getting through that. And so I feel the exact same way. I'm sure a lot of people do the same thing, right? Like
Yeah.
they
Well, it takes some level of inner awareness to like recognize that that's happening. So I mean, step 1 is already completed, being aware that you're doing stuff like this. And something that I've been trying to do is like get to know these feelings and not to make them wrong. Like generally kind of the thing that this kind of goes into the group thought and kind of thing. But you it's beneficial to you to present yourself like you're doing great, right? And so if you sometimes people pretend like they're great and they don't know they're pretending they're great, and they're like, "Oh, I'm great, life's great." And they're like really negating a lot of things that are happening because they have to there's no difference between who they are and how they're acting. And to me there's a really big difference just in my personal life. So yeah, I really try to get to know, like, if I'm feeling sadness, I really want to know what it is, because part of my like learning process here, just as somebody who lives in this time period or just being a human in general, I want to get to know what it's like to be a human. And to be a human sometimes means to be sad, and sometimes it means to be angry. And I think kind of my programming growing up was to say being angry is not good. And so I'm going to pretend like I'm not angry. And that really builds up, and that really is painful to bottle that stuff down. And sadness. So just try to like what I try to do is I try to let it happen because that's natural, but also like to be there with that feeling and to kind of figure out what it even means. Because I think it's like it's healthy and natural, and it's part of a balance. It's just not a balance that's been trained. It's not. There's not very good training out there.
yeah, it's that's probably a problem with a lot of people, because honestly I can't say I know a lot of people who are just forthright, myself included, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are just forthright with their emotions, right? Who acknowledge them, experience them, right? I feel like we all, to a certain extent, push them back. I don't know if that's learned at like a young age or something like that. For as long as I can remember,
I think it's a cultural
like,
thing.
yeah, I get probably a common one, I'd assume too, right? I mean,
Oh, I like. First of all, I don't know anything, but what I think is, I think this happens to many people, and there's varying levels of awareness. And at a certain level of awareness and acceptance, then you're able to you know, traverse through all of them and, you know, allow them. It's not about like sitting idly by. Oops. It's not about sitting idly by while they happen. Like, you're participating with them and like getting to know what they're like. So I think it mainly chalks up to differing levels of awareness. Yeah, and then after that, the ability to participate. So I think that happens to so many people, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you feel something like this, or you have something to add in this area, please leave a comment. Let us know what you're thinking, because there's always more ideas out there. So we'd love to hear what you have to say. Dude, should we just call it now? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I like it. Kind of a more a serious version of the podcast. We had a little bit of humor in there in the beginning, and we kind of like, you know, we hunkered down and we faced some more serious topics. You know, I like it.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily want to put to say what it is at this point. So, thanks so much for listening. This is Not Your Cousin's Podcast. You can follow me at Instagram at jake.ss. My website is thegroverecording.com. Hit me up for recording, mixing, and mastering here in Seattle. You can find Jesse over here on SoundCloud. You tell them what it is.
Steel Strings. You can also follow my my YouTube. I might make another channel some point. Try to get into some different style of content. Because right now I just got a music channel going. So who knows?
Okay, great.
Who
So
knows?
like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell your mom.
How about your dad? Tell your dad too.
Tell your dad. And, you know, I'm not trying to be offensive if either of those people are not a part of your lives. Tell somebody you know. Tell someone you love. Tell me what you think.
Tell your guardian. How about that? Tell
Yep.
whoever is living in your house. Go right now, knock on their rooms, and tell them check out the Not Your Cousin's podcast.
And if you're your own guardian, congratulations. We'll see you later.
Create a second. We got a serious podcast going today.